Hello, and welcome to Geometric's November webinar, Increase ROI with a Holistic Digital Advertising Approach. While we wait for other attendees to finish joining, I'll cover some housekeeping items. Today's webinar is presented by Geometric. For more than 20 years, we've been focused on spending every day helping healthcare organizations across the country leverage digital strategies to navigate the new consumer landscape. Our agency is the creative and technical power behind more than 500 digital experiences. As a digital experience agency with deep technical and creative expertise, we provide hospitals, health systems, and medical groups with digital experience strategy, user experience consulting, website design, and creative digital services optimized for the unique needs of the healthcare industry. And we do it well. Our clients are continuously recognized for industry-leading online initiatives. Over the last 2 years, 22 of our clients have won awards for online excellence, including numerous best-in-class awards. Our webinar today will run approximately 1 hour. If you're listening on a speakerphone, we recommend you mute your line to prevent audio quality issues. We will answer questions at the end of the presentation, so please enter them in the chat box. We depend on your feedback to make our webinars the best they can be. Please take a moment to complete the survey at the end of the webinar. Finally, a recording of this presentation will be posted on geometric.com in the Ideas section. Leading the discussion today is Michael Leonard, Senior Digital Marketing Strategist, and Joe Schresher, Digital Marketing Strategist here at Geometric. Michael is an experienced digital strategist with skills in multiple aspects of SEO, SEM, keyword discovery, and content creation. As a senior marketing strategist, Michael helps health systems of all sizes increase their market share. And Joe is a digital marketer with a proven history of helping some of the world's most trusted brands drive localized demand through digital strategies. This Google AdWords and Bing certified marketer has experience in account management, customer service support, team management, and writing. So without further ado, here's Michael and Joe.
Thanks, Shannon. So when looking at the overall patient journey, how you engage with consumers and present yourself at the top of the funnel has a really lasting impact on if they'll choose to become lifelong patients or move on to your competitors. So today, we're going to be taking a look at all the different ways we approach capturing attention and remaining relevant in consumers' minds by considering how paid and organic search engine optimization can kind of work seamlessly together during the research phase of the consumer journey funnel. So paid search, organic search, or SEO, and business listings each have a compounding effect on one another. Rather than seeing them in silos, we see them as tools in the same tool belt. All of them serve multiple purposes, but rarely do they share the same benefits as one another in building your brand. So whether the user recognizes you from their time on another platform and go to learn more, or they're seeking healthcare on their own, owning every aspect of the search engine results page is crucial. So let's back that up with some data. According to the reports directly from Google, the search engine results page, or SERP, is the first and oftentimes only way a user will actually find and engage with an organization. So for example, 68% of experiences online begin with a search engine. So where do you go when you have symptoms or a need of care? It's going to be somewhere like Google, Bing, or others like them. When users are searching, 77% of them rely on maps and business listings. And finally, why is it important to aim for the top spots in search engine results? It's because 91% of users pick a result on the first page of any given SERP. If you're not in the top 10, you're losing out. And if you're not in the top 3 results, you're still going to lose out on a massive amount of traffic. And on top of what we have learned from Google, we also have data specifically tailored to the healthcare market. Geometric recently conducted a survey of US healthcare consumers, and you can read the full results available at the link on the screen. One of the questions we asked users was, when researching health conditions online, how likely are you to use each of the following? 60% of users said that they are very likely to use a search engine, while 49% would be very likely to choose WebMD or other general healthcare information sites. 43% were very likely to visit a site specific to their health condition, and only 33% said that they were very likely to go directly to a local hospital or health system website. Even if their eventual destination is your organization for care or for deeper information, those first steps go beyond what's on your site.
Surveys have shown that between 75% and 91% of users never even visit page 2 of a Google search results page. More and more, the space on a search results page, particularly the first page, is in flux with organic results, business listings, paid ads, structured snippets, and other knowledge panels, all vying for the same real estate. With so few users navigating past page 1 and with no single channel being a reliable source for top of page 1 results, it does not make sense to put all of your eggs in one basket. Having a broad spectrum approach is critical to ensuring that you can reliably get in front of as many users for as many searches as the algorithm allows.
So if we need to consider all options equally, let's take a look at individual strengths as well as weaknesses before we go into the best way to actually utilize these disciplines.
Starting off, the strengths of the paid channel ultimately come from its speed, flexibility, and transparency. Unlike SEO, we can start seeing impressions and clicks within a week, most often within a few days, even 48 hours, and conversions almost as fast. Any campaign changes that we make to a paid campaign can often start to show results, again, in similar amounts of time. Given it's a targeted channel, it allows you to point your advertising dollars towards specific areas and keywords that you may have difficulty reaching organically, or to target specific geographies or specific populations that may need particular attention. So you can be very narrow in scope that way. The levers of the campaign that you have at your disposal, keywords, ad text, things of that nature, have more transparent results. If you add or remove a keyword, you may be able to see the results of that. Changing a budget, you can see the change of that too right away. It's just not quite as opaque as organic can sometimes be. And again, often you'll see these changes again more or less immediately. And what all those three other things really combine to is it just gives you a greater sense of control. Whatever your strategy is, the ability to toggle keywords, budget, ad copy, extensions, conversion actions, and to be able to see the changes of those, again, more or less immediately, it just gives you a greater sense of control compared to what we necessarily have with the organic channel.
And when you're looking at the strengths of organic search engine optimization, you must always keep the user's end goal in mind, just like you do with paid. Users are also more wary of ads, gravitating toward organic results at the top of a search engine results page, even when ads appear beforehand. So this means that users, they engage more with organic results. There's a reason why we still consider the top spot in organic search to be the most crucial spot. And while users see the top spot before any others, it's also because the top spot tends to be considered, for better or worse, the most trusted verified result. And that's to say, the more time and effort you put into organic optimization, the more you get out of it. You'll see a much stronger return on investment as your organic results climb higher and higher up the chain of results, eventually heading toward that coveted #1 spot. And with organic optimization, your budget goes specifically towards strategy, execution, and maintenance. You don't also have to concern yourself with ad spend or if bidding for specific keywords is going to eat up your entire budget. And finally, organic optimization provides a broad set of tools for an SEO expert to wield. So we'll get more into methodology later, but these tools range from technical aspects like making sure your site indexes or that specific pages don't index, to structured data code that speaks directly to search engine algorithms. And of course, keyword and term optimization and meta content, as well as on-page content. So like their strengths, paid and organic have unique weaknesses.
First, for paid, it's going to be relying on continued spending. You need to constantly have an ad budget in place to continue to use paid search. Again, it's in the name there. And how much you spend may actually fluctuate over time depending on competition and search landscape changes. Again, you're going to have to constantly be feeding that with funds. Second, it's best used with a narrow focus. You can advertise against a broad section of a site, but it may be less effective than a more narrow focus campaign would be. It's just not necessarily as optimized for that sort of broad objective. Fewer than half of users even report on clicking on search ads. Some segment of the population will ignore ads, even if you do everything else right. So you got to keep that in mind too. And then also, many SERPs just don't have ad placements on page one or at the top of page one. Of course, that's in fluctuation. It depends on the search, it depends on the user and the location, but no matter what, every SERP will have organic results, particularly if we include business listings, map packs, knowledge panels, snippets, and traditional organic results into that sort of umbrella of organic. So organic is a great way to make sure that you're always going to appear on a search, while ads are a little less reliable for that.
And then on the organic side, it's going to end up taking longer to see results, number one, anywhere from weeks to months, depending on local competition levels and how well optimized your content currently is. And then two, organic, oops, that was not supposed to happen. Organic is an art form. It's not a science. It has been changing and updating since search engines came into existence. It requires a certain level of guesswork along with a sound strategy and patience as you work through exactly what works best for your particular organization and what might not. And three, because of that constant change, we're kind of at the mercy of the search algorithms. Google tends to have significant updates a handful of times per year. It's important to be aware of these updates as they release, and also have kind of contingency plans in place if damage is done to your findability. And fourth, because of this, SEO requires constant maintenance. You don't always have to, reinvent the wheel, but diligent monitoring and refreshing at early signs of any traffic changes makes all the difference in the world. So now that we've taken a look at paid and organic as individual disciplines, let's see why we view them as two parts of a holistic strategy and how to wield their power to the greatest effect. So this chart sums up why utilizing both is so important. They really complement each other by filling in the gaps that the other creates. So now that we've kind of gone over their strengths and weaknesses already, what's kind of an example in practice? So let's say it's flu season and you don't have an organic presence in your area for administering any flu shots. So you end up building a paid campaign and launch it. And now users who are searching for flu information in your area are seeing your ad relatively instantly. But if you're spending money on broad, unfocused campaigns that end up trying to reach everything or are set to last for months at a time without any strategic adjustments, it won't be as effective in the long term. And this is why search engine optimization complements paid campaigns so well. I mean, sure, search engine optimization takes longer to ramp up, but it has staying power as long as it's maintained and the latest best practices are implemented. Combining them, you don't have to worry about maintaining the same ad spend year round. Organic will end up doing a majority of the heavy lifting, and it will free up a lot of space and more of your paid budget for the most impactful focus areas of your organization. So while the paid flu season campaign runs this year, you can be optimizing your organic content for flu season so that next year you'll gain more essentially free traffic while also pushing users to the flu season landing page when it counts the most through paid. And let's say that you're a visual learner like I am. So paid ads are like billboards you see when traveling around town. That's a pretty easy comparison. If they're memorable enough, you may end up taking note of them and make an effort to visit whatever that billboard is promoting. But like with anything you rent, that billboard can be replaced with another at any time. It could even be your competitor's promotions. Organic optimization is like a storefront in a busy shopping district. You have full control of what you provide users with. It's up to you to make that storefront the most appealing on the block in order to grab the most attention and be seen as the absolute must-visit destination. And as long as you're dusting the window display and refreshing the contents with it every so often, you're going to maintain that curiosity and interest. Users will continue to see you before other sites. Search engines will continue to see value as your content remains fresh and applicable. But when you consider both the billboard and storefront, both also align with three core values of digital marketing optimization, whether paid or organic. And these values are locality, relevancy, and actionability. So if you're an organization in Oregon, there are very few instances that I can think of where you'd want to be showing up as a result in Virginia. Likewise, you want to ensure that the content you're putting out there is as relevant as possible for the audience you are attempting to serve with that content. Hyperlocality is a part of any good local strategy because what works for relevance in one state won't necessarily translate to another. And what works for one city within a state may end up not being the best option for another city in that same state. So this means researching which terms and keywords are searched most frequently for a service line's service area. Sometimes that may be the technical term, or you may end up being the more user-friendly word, and that can help inform your combined strategy. And finally, actionability. It really does mean you have to treat every optimization you do as a tipping point toward conversion. Your organic content needs to be geared toward the user, and this is something that many organizations have done for their paid ads for a really long time. But we're seeing the same powerful gains when applying this thought process to the overall user experience as well. So let's take a moment to discuss the methodology of both of these.
In order to build a solid PPC campaign strategy from the ground up, we really need to think about this in sort of a different way than the user would, sort of cyclically. So the first step really to consider as us, the organization, is to consider what your organizational goals are and decide on what conversion points will lead to that goal. This is the last stop for the user, but it's really the first thing that we need to consider here because that goal is going to be specific to each organization and each need. And the main thing that we want to make sure that we do at this step is always make sure that that goal is aligned with a conversion that is trackable and benchmarked so we can know exactly how we are doing and what we need to do to improve, or if we're exceeding expectations. And so while that is our first step, it's really, again, the last step for the user, which is why it's at the top of our pyramid here. So from here, we're going to go all the way down to keywords. And the reason that you need to think about this is ultimately this is the action that the users are going to take when they are searching for your service or again, whatever we're advertising for. So a more actionable conversion is going to help inform these keywords. Top level goals may not need to be as specific, which would result in different types of keywords. Different populations may search differently. So whatever that goal is that we're trying to do, that's going to influence the keywords that we want to put into the campaign. And those keywords are ultimately going to be the things that users search for. So again, it all moves cyclically there. From there, we need to write ad copy. Ad copy should be conversational, it should center the user, and it should provide next steps. It should reference back to the keyword. The idea there is that we want to try and create a through line from that user experience, from what they searched for into the ad copy itself. That helps to reassure them that it is a relevant search, and it also helps to catch their eye. And then the next step for the user is the landing page. The landing page should ideally be specific to the campaign, and that's really just for tracking purposes. So we know what users are going there are generally just from the campaign. We don't necessarily want it to be from any channel whatsoever. The copy should also be a little bit different than we would have on a normal organic page. It should be just enough to lead to the user to the conversion point. And the copy should also reflect the copy in the ad. Again, we're trying to create a through line from that keyword that they search for through the ad copy, which should have the keyword in it, through the landing page, which should have the keyword there too. The conversion point should be obvious and clear, ideally above the fold. Basically, with the landing page, we want to create an environment where it should be abundantly clear what we want the user to do once they reach the landing page and convert rather than surf to other pages. We don't necessarily want them clicking on a bunch of navigational elements from here. And the through line that we've created with the copy, with the keywords, should ultimately lead the user to that too. It should really be more of a bottom-up funnel approach. And from there, on the landing page, we finally return for the user to the conversion point, which is really where we started when building.
So for SEO, the pyramid looks a little something like this. So starting out, without a sound technical foundation, you're not going to end up going anywhere. If your site is exceedingly broken, search engines aren't going to pay any attention to you when comparing to other locally optimized sites. A solid foundation means that ensuring your site is indexing correctly, that links on your site don't go to error pages, and while not necessarily a ranking factor, ensuring that your analytics platform of choice is set up correctly and tracking the data you need most to make sound decisions. When you've reached the point where your site is being found by search engines and you've mitigated any issues, then you can focus on on-page SEO. So are you using those hyperlocal terms and keywords that I mentioned earlier? Does your content include relevancy, locality, and actionability? Instead of saying what you do, tell them what they get from you. So this can also include understanding if your service line sections have the right balance of content, accurate section headers, if you need to expand to more pages to include deeper levels of value, and creating an internal linking structure that ties every aspect of your services together. Without content to fuel the majority of a search engine's understanding of your site, things like optimized page titles and meta descriptions would end up being meaningless. So if you see your page title and meta description on a search engine page, does clicking on it actually deliver what is promised? If not, is that a problem with your meta content or your on-page content? Meta content and business listings do have the highest chance of being automatically altered by search engines. They take away control of your brand when there is not a strong argument to be made about what's on a page, or if a business listing is accurate, or if they don't deliver what the users need. The goal of search engines in the end is to make everything as relevant as possible, and they don't really ask for permission to do so if they think you're not, sometimes to disastrous results. And then on-SERP SEO and the top of the pyramid, off-page SEO, tend to blend together a little bit because something like business listings, for example, are very much a part of on-SERP SEO, but also have a lot of power when it comes to your reputation with off-page SEO. So are your business listings accurate? If Google follows the URL on your business listings to your site's location profile, are the attributes the same or different? Are you responding to as many user reviews as possible and fostering good reviews from patients who might have had a good experience and you caught them before they even head out the door? Beyond business listings, are reputable sites referencing yours? Or are you overwhelmed with spam sites dragging down your site's spam score and damaging your reputation and pushing you down the organic ranks? And as you can see, there are so many factors that can go into the strategy surrounding organic findability that I could probably do a webinar solely on all these different practices. However, what you need to know most urgently about organic findability is a massive shift in how we optimize. Around the end of August, Google rolled out what it has called the Helpful Content Update. So what this helpful content update intends to achieve is a greater level of accurate, non-spam, highly optimized pages being delivered to users. And it's doing so in an interesting way. It's utilizing a heavily trained artificial intelligence that is meant to think and choose like an actual user would. So in theory, search engine results for users by users. So this artificial intelligence affects every site and every result. What we're seeing because of this is the biggest search engine in the world is kind of validating a lot of the best practices we've already adhered to for a long time: locality, relevancy, and actionability, as well as the harmony of disciplines. So if every aspect of your site, from on-page content to meta to technical, all work together to present search engines with locally relevant content, it's being rewarded. Google's looking for answers and solutions. So in many ways, it's looking for a lot of what you may already be doing for paid campaigns. By transforming organic search engine results to be wholly user-focused, or at least in theory, wholly user-focused, Google is making it clear that the gap between how we optimize paid and organic is narrowing. The tools and methods we use may be different, but the theme isn't, which is put the user experience first. So treat it like a direct transaction between the organization and the consumer. So how would a user navigate your site from SERP to that conversion? Um, I know I'm asking a lot of questions, but that's because Google's asking a lot of questions as well. Over 30 to be in fact. Google has publicly published over 30 questions that their helpful content updates AI weighs when considering which pages deserve the #1 spot on results pages. And all of them can be sorted into 4 segments. And I've included example questions as well. So audience, does the content serve genuine interests, or does it seem like someone guessing what might rank well in search engines? Expertise, does the content provide insightful analysis or interesting information that is beyond obvious? Credibility, would you feel comfortable trusting this content for issues relating to your money or your life, which I think we can all agree is extremely important in healthcare? And wants and needs, after reading your content, will someone leave feeling they've learned enough about a topic to help achieve their goal? So what can you do, assuming that perhaps the helpful content update did impact your site? Um, and how do you know exactly when you actually need to act on the impacts of any major Google update? Well, in the case of the helpful content update, some organizations saw a double-digit drop in the amount of traffic and conversions that they had. Others coasted by without a scratch, and others saw a major increase once the update finished rolling out at the end of August. So what you need to do first is assess your year-over-year organic traffic trends. Then audit search engine results positions, see where you were, where you are now, and if it's a positive or negative result. And then determine which service lines or sections were the most impacted, and how that also impacts your organizational goals. If you're seeing a massive drop in click-through rate, now would be the time to start shifting strategy to new optimization methods rather than waiting even longer. So a major update like this is also the perfect time to have some paid budget set aside to continue pulling into those key sections, even if your organic rankings take a hit. But if Google is seeking sites with the most helpful, user-friendly content, we're still left with another question, which is, what about all the other information search engines still want from us? And the answer to that is, just because Google says they want your content to be 100% user-focused, they're not asking you to strip away everything that may complicate that end goal. They're asking you to think differently. What we're seeing on the ground level is a divergence between what the user sees and what a machine needs to read. So with Google demanding a more focused, helpful user experience, you need to make what's on the page and in your meta content count specifically for the user. So this includes strategy like picking the most impactful keywords to utilize throughout the user-facing content, choosing user-friendly terminology rather than technical terms when any data might dictate that that's the right path forward. Always include a handful of locations and providers on a page with a clear option to view all. The goal is to not overwhelm with options. And then utilize every tool available in building just an overall fantastic user experience. Make sure your content, your in-content internal linking provides users with the most important next steps. Utilize breadcrumbs as well as a well-organized proximity navigation. You never ever want your user to feel lost. And likewise, the search engines do see and also note all of these same aspects when a user is having frustrations or issues. But so much more can be covered by schema or structured data. It's a versatile, powerful code language. All major search engines have agreed to recognize and honor the contents within structured data. It can be as long or short as you need in order to convey the purpose of that particular page to search engines. And what schema does, in essence, is communicate directly to algorithms in a way that is easily digestible, specifically for machines. So unless a user views the page's source code, this is not something that they're going to be reading. It's tucked away in your page's header. So this includes attributes like expanded keywords and terms that go beyond what's on the page for the user. You can break down the overall structure of the content on the page. For example, identifying that a page is about spinal cancer and that sections within that page include symptoms, diagnosis, treatment. You can even make search engines aware of the most important link on the page or a related link from another site, like those general or specific condition health information sites. And of course, while you may want to limit the amount of real estate that your providers and locations take up for the overall user experience, you can include every single location in this code to make search engines aware that this service line connects with all of these other location profiles. And those location profiles connect with Google Maps to strengthen the bond between structured data, traditional SERP, and maps. But why is a strong connection with maps so important? Something that has really crept up on healthcare is the overall importance of business listings. Almost always, they are the new #1 spot whenever you're searching for local search results. For example, I searched for primary care with my location set to the locality of Kenmore, Washington, and you have Evergreen Health Primary Care Kenmore appear. So on desktop, it'll appear off to the side, and on mobile, it appears at the very top of the SERP above all other results. And if you have multiple results or multiple locations all vying for that top location spot, you'll end up seeing a map pack, which also appears at the very top of the page, usually with 3 local listings in it. So optimized business listings have multiple impacts on your bottom line too. It increases local traffic as well as brand relevance. If you'll recall, users are increasingly relying on listings and maps for directions, information, and reviews without ever actually clicking into a site. It also has the added effect of increasing your real estate in search. So let's say you appear as #2 in traditional search engine results. You'll also either be taking up the highest possible spot with the business listing or be part of the top 3 in a map pack. So that's twice the space, and you're taking that away from competition. And perhaps the most frustrating thing for any of my clients is that business listings require constant and consistent maintenance. Google, in particular, once again, loves trying to force auto updates on business listings, adjusting addresses, phone numbers, even open hours without ever asking for permission. So most organizations lean into one of 3 types of business listings management, and some of them may sound more appealing at first glance than others, but have major pitfalls, and this is kind of where problems can begin. So you can go with massive semi-automated platforms like Reputation or Yext, for example, and these types of platforms are great for having bulk control of your business listings data. However, it's difficult to maintain and manage individual listings. Then you have the leave it to fate method. Google and Bing, to a lesser extent, pride themselves on auto-populating business listings, as I mentioned before. The problem is leaving your business listings to be fully populated by algorithms ends up with inaccurate, inconsistent, and uncontrollable listings. And so if and when you'd actually decide to act on business listings, you would then have to go around, corral all of these business listings into one main business listings account, then hope you can actually claim ownership through their automated systems, and then finally get any inaccuracies sorted. And finally, we have the manually created and managed method. This allows for easy bulk control of listings. All you have to do is simply upload a full organization file to the platforms with any updates for that month or that time period. It's extremely easy to maintain because you have full direct control over almost all aspects of individual listings. And at least in the case of Geonetric, there are monthly check-ins to align your organization's strategic value with what we're doing day to day. And experts are only a message away at any other time in case of any emergencies or unexpected changes. And I gave it away already, but this is by far our preferred method for business listings management. Rather than providing an unnavigable, frustrating platform, we really prefer to prioritize what you need along with ensuring that best practices are maintained and refreshed. And there's an important reason for this. So every aspect of digital marketing really does feed into one another. They have the ability to weaken or empower each other. So you have all of these attributes of a business listing. Those that are appearing on the screen now are really the bare minimum you should aim for ensuring that they're accurate. And this is because when Google puts out their crawlers and they find a connection between your business listing and your on-site location profile, it's going to end up fact checking. So is everything on your site in line with what's on the business listing? Does the name match exactly? Are the hours listed on the site the same as what's on the business listing? The more inaccuracies that Google finds between these two, the more likely it is to meddle. And Google, as we've shown, is always meddling, but this really emboldens it. So auto updates have the capability of wreaking havoc on your locations. We've seen hours changes, addresses altered, locations shut down simply because Google believes that the data it has makes it true. And with such a high percentage of users relying solely on business listings, there's a pretty high chance they're not going to the site to do additional cross-referencing on their own. They're relying on Google to do that. And here's where it can become more complicated, but also much more satisfying. As we all know, Google's not just going to cross-reference the location page. It's going to also see that the primary care location is linked to your primary care service line pages. And let's say you have schema on location profiles and service line pages. And you have a stronger argument against Google for what's on the site being accurate, thus reducing, but not completely eliminating, the chances things will be changed automatically. It's an ongoing battle, and this simply provides much needed reinforcements. And by having business listings aligned with local location profiles and schema and service line pages, you're also increasing the rankability of those pages because search engines see that a lot of care went into ensuring the accuracy of the content. And sometimes when you and your competition are pretty evenly matched in the content that you offer to users, these additional factors can really tip the scales in your favor. So in order to drive the greatest level of success, obviously approach digital strategy in harmony. So in many cases, you're going to start with organic optimization, making sure the on-page content is stellar and the meta content really sells what you're offering. And what you're doing during this time is collecting knowledge on local keywords. You may already today be ranking for thousands of keywords in your organization's localities, but you can end up learning a lot by researching where you're currently ranking for those keywords, but also comparing where your competition is as well. So for instance, you can determine which keywords you're already ranking high in, which ones could use improvement, or where to expand to next. This helps inform you on how to optimize page titles, meta descriptions, on-page content, as well as schema. So this is the perfect time to also be building or optimizing your business listings, ensuring that providers and locations are represented and also represented accurately. Since this increases the chances of your site being found for even more keywords, you're gathering even more data on how to further optimize your content. And as you begin to research into how you're ranking, you can begin to formulate a meaningful paid strategy. You have all of these keywords and terms now to really sink your teeth into. And I can guarantee that the gaps in coverage will become pretty evident as you compare against competitors and simply scan keywords for each service line. And then you're then able to determine which keywords you'd want to rank or rank higher for. But you just don't have the organic momentum yet to do so. So strategize on and implement an ad campaign in order to target search results that your local competitors might be able to obtain organically due to any number of factors. This is also extremely beneficial because as you're running ad campaigns, you're able to collect even more keywords that are connected to the targeted keywords that you can then use with your organic strategy and also expand the reach of your paid campaigns. Neglecting one aspect of this holistic approach ends up upsetting all of them. Likewise, a disconnect between any of these areas can really reduce overall effectiveness.
Alternatively, if you started from a paid approach rather than an organic approach, you can find similar opportunities for synergy. Paid ads can require the same levels of keyword and user experience research to perform the same types of optimizations that Michael outlined on the previous slide. More than that, however, is how paid and organic can complement each other. Starting as an organization, you may have identified a specific need. Perhaps signups are low for a class, perhaps new doctors having difficulty finding new patients. A paid ad targeting keywords for that specific need makes a lot of sense. However, as time goes on, perhaps you would like to free up budget to apply to other needs, but you are worried that any reduction in spend will put you back to square one. Organic is a great way to help thread that needle. By using your existing paid data and leveraging a little additional research, you can identify search terms that may be competitive organically. By optimizing your on-page and technical SEO towards those terms, buffing up your organic results, in time, you may be able to reduce your spend. Finding efficiencies like that can help you keep your advertising dollars working only when they need to. Additionally, business listings can help boost paid performance as well. Business listings can be used as a location extension in your ads, expanding your footprint on screen and offering additional ways for users to engage with your ads. And all of that is just on top of the benefits inherent in creating and optimizing your listings as it is. So this way, you are able to potentially capture more conversions with your ads thanks to creating and linking those business listings to them, as well as start capturing conversions from those listings themselves.
So we often see one of two issues arise when an organization tries to take on all of this at once. The organization wants to do everything internally. And if you're anything like me, after seeing all of the different areas of expertise today, that's a lot to take on. And then two, the organization splits responsibilities across multiple different agencies that have no real connection to one another, and ends up creating a pretty lackluster overall strategy that never fully harmonizes. So let's look at a case study from our work with Hartford Healthcare to see how we brought their strategy together across all disciplines.
We started our relationship with Hartford Healthcare primarily in the SEO area. We audited and managed website and website sections for any sort of areas of improvement, primarily in technical SEO. In the case of their rehabilitation services, we did identify some areas of technical SEO and on-page user experience that we could improve. But more than anything, this provided us with a foundation where we were able to develop a clear understanding of where we were already strong in SEO and where we needed to work to improve. However, during that process, we were also able to audit their accompanying PPC campaign, their paid campaign. We analyzed the service line campaign, and while keeping our understanding of where we were strong in SEO in mind, we found some optimization opportunities. Specifically, we found keywords that we were advertising for that maybe were less desired and desired searches that we weren't included as keywords. Ad text was outdated, needed to be updated to the latest and greatest that Google had to offer. Service line areas that maybe did not have advertising behind them offered areas for additional expansion. And we restructured those campaigns really following those best practices. Additionally, we did find some gaps in business listings and online reputation management that, when fixed, would help strengthen their presence in local search as well. One additional thing that we identified and optimized for was cannibalization, specifically PPC SEO cannibalization or paid organic cannibalization. What that is if we think back to and envision that search results page, and we can remember that ads on organic results are really vying for the same search real estate. Again, that same page where we see organic results, ads, business listing, etc. If we think about that, we can think about all of those as being in somewhat of a competition, which is ultimately why we recommend a broad spectrum approach. But when it comes to paid, we want to be really conscious of that because there are real dollars and cents backing paid ads, and we always want to be sure that we are using them as efficiently as possible. Now, there's no one-size-fits-all solution here. There are a lot of factors to consider, including competition, value of top-of-page placement, actual conversion numbers, cost, the user funnel and user experience that you want to provide. But however, as we were looking at Hartford's results, we noticed really two things. One, there were paid ads that were targeting keywords that included brand terms. So think Hartford Healthcare Rehab, Hartford Healthcare Rehabilitation Services. So the brand name was right in there in the keyword. And two, those searches had strong SEO, and not just strong SEO, very strong SEO. The entire results page for these types of branded searches tended to be dominated by a half a dozen of Hartford's domains, as well as business listings. As we looked into this, we found that there was really no reliable competition on these specific searches, either paid or organically. It was clear that it would be difficult for a user to search for Hartford Healthcare Rehab by name and not engage with Hartford as an organization. With that in mind, it made sense for us to limit and remove paid ads on those branded search terms, because this would allow us to capture the competitive searches where the budget really needed to go, while letting our strong SEO continue to be strong and deliver results that way. And here are our results. You can see that we saw a 34% increase in impressions, a 32% increase in clicks, a 24% decrease in average cost per click, and a 125% increase in conversions. We have several different benchmarks along the way, from updating conversion tracking, the keyword updates, ad copy updates, and then the ultimate removal of brand terms. And we have a very nice upward slope on both of those trend lines for clicks and conversions here. So overall, those changes have been a very positive result for us for this specific campaign.
So the next question that needs to be asked is, what are your next steps? But before we go any further, I wanted to let you all know that we are coming up on the end of the webinar today, and I believe we will have time for questions, or at least a couple. So if you haven't yet, please prepare and submit your questions for our end of session Q&A. So as the complexity of your digital strategy grows, it's important to not let things get out of control. We've seen it time and again where an agency has their own internal goals, which don't really align with what another agency is trying to accomplish, or worse, doesn't consider the actual needs of the client. So this separation tends to happen between, the individual disciplines, paid, SEO, and reputation management. And this ends up leading to minimized strategy and inflated budgets, as well as a reduced return on investment. And as we saw with Hartford Healthcare, the best work that was done was when efforts are brought in under as few umbrellas as possible. When you can fold paid and organic into one agency, as well as working alongside in-house, or a combination of those two, you have a direct line of communication for all of your needs, rather than trying to play telephone or gather all stakeholders into one meeting. The growth, of course, spoke for itself in Joe's case study, but the ease of communication it cannot be understated. So we gave you a lot to consider today, but where should you start? The first crucial step that we have is building out a multi-channel roadmap that ends up encompassing all of your objectives and channels. Then you'll want to use that roadmap to help consider how the channels can work together, or if they're working against each other, so that strategy can be tailored to avoid any potential road bumps. Of course, when you have all of this laid out, you want to reference it against your organization's overall objectives, both digital and non. So are there any gaps? Is there anything draining budget more than it should, or is losing out based on what you've learned here today? So when you have a clear view internally, that's when you should begin to consider how you restructure any digital teams or vendors working on your efforts. This will help keep your channels in sync and everything moving toward the objectives you've outlined. And finally, one of the most impactful things you can do, no matter how many vendors you're currently working with, is keep in mind your internal bandwidth. The last thing you want to do is spread your internal teams too thin, or across too many agencies that make it difficult to communicate between all of them. So the key takeaway is to treat your digital strategy with care. And thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm sure it has been extremely a busy week for coming back from holiday, but thank you so much for sitting here with us today.
At this time, we'll take any questions. Please type them in the chat. I do see a couple. Michael and Joe, what is the best way to assess cannibalization?
Sure. Like I said before, there's really not a one-size-fits-all solution here. So I think the best thing that you can do is to try and gather as much data as possible before drawing any conclusion. The very first thing that I would look at would be the search queries that are coming in for your existing paid campaigns. Search queries rather than keywords. So what users are actually searching for rather than the keywords that are included in the campaigns. And the reason I would do that first is just to gather, again, that gives me a sense of how the keywords are working and what they're connecting to, but it also gives me a sense of what's currently working and what the actual users are looking for. That may help identify other problems or other areas for improvement. But in the area of cannibalization too, by taking those search terms, particularly the most popular ones, and there are a number of tools out there that we'd be happy to share, that you can actually see what a search result for that search would look like, in any locality, and you can run that test multiple times, and that will give you a pretty functional idea of what a search results page would look like for that search. It should give you a functional idea of potentially any competition, either paid, organically, just what that landscape looks like. And again, we're really trying to stay focused on that first page of Google, because again, we know that's where most people really stop their search and really at the top of the page. So by doing that with some of the most popular search queries that you see in your ads, you should have a pretty good working idea of whether your SEO is up to snuff for those, and maybe it gives you a sign that you can peel back. It should give you a sense on whether there's competition for those searches and whether you need to lean in harder or keep as is. So there's a lot of different directions you can go, but that's ultimately going to be the first step before considering really anything else. And again, not a one-size-fits-all solution. So that's just one element of many that I would look at, but it's the leading contender.
Okay, great. Second question, why does it matter if we do organic if Google rewrites, I can't talk today, everything anyway?
So there are actually a couple of reasons. From an organizational perspective, you don't want a machine deciding your brand or what is put out there for all to see. It doesn't really care about your goals. It cares about its own goals. And the helpful content update, it made the process better with auto rewrites. It seeks action verbs within pages or looks for context of what the page is. And that's kind of how it decides now what to use in a rewrite. But it's rarely a good representation of what's actually on the page. Of course, if you are a larger health organization and you have a whole lot of pages that you would need to potentially rewrite the content for, you can prioritize the key service lines and sections, and then you can kind of use those potential auto rewrites to your advantage because it can kind of give a little bit of breathing room when you need to refresh your organic optimization and you have thousands of pages to go through, and you just don't. Time is not on your side usually with organic, so this is one way that you can have a little bit more wiggle room. And finally, I think one that a lot of people overlook, and I sometimes do the same, is that Google's not the only search engine. There's a lot of different search engines out there, and even though Google is the leading one by a wide margin, and it does tend to set the precedent for what's to come, you still want to have control over all search engines and not just focus on doing or not doing what Google wants you to do or not do.
Okay, thank you. Those are the only two questions I see. So thank you for joining us, and that concludes today's webinar. Thanks, Michael and Joe.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.